Hey guys, you should have just finished up doing your wins. At L3 we do wins every week, and those wins are not that you have 3 years being sober or whatever it might be. We are focusing just from week to week. What happened last week that you can call a win? What happened where you can look at that and say, do you know what, I'm growing as a person. I would have handled that in a different way in the past that would not have been good, but I handled it better. Maybe out of 7 days you had 6 days and 23 hours and 59 minutes of loss and failure. But did you have 1 minute where you won? Is there one time when you said, you know, I made a better decision than I would have? That's what we're looking for. You know, when you're climbing up the side of a cliff, the goal is not to make leaps and bounds, it's to find a place to put your toe and to put your finger where you can grab on, and even the littlest ledge can help you do that. And so you're really looking for wins like ledges. Is there something I can even get my toe on, get my finger on, and I can say, do you know what, I won there, and that's going to keep me moving up to the top of this thing. That's what we're looking for, and that's what we want you to think about. So think about that. If you didn't write one down with your group, then take out a piece of paper, write it down, and pause this video. Think about it for a minute. Give God thanks for giving you some wins. That's going to be very important for you going forward. So the topic today is new life. 2 Corinthians 5:17 is the verse that we're going to come out of with this. And 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, therefore, if any man, and it's man or woman, it's talking about humanity, if any man be in Christ, that's Jesus, if any man be in Jesus, he is a new creature. So he's something new. He's not what he used to be. It says, the old things are passed away. Behold, all things have become new. So if you are in Christ, the old is gone, it's passed away, and there's something new. But what does that mean, really? Because we sometimes feel like our old self. Sometimes we get imposter syndrome. We feel like we're trying to live in the new life, but we still feel like the old person. Well, it's saying the old has passed away, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what that really means. But here's the word for the old. It comes from this actual root word of archaeos. Think of archaic, you know, you think of those types. Batman, Arkham Knights, right? Kind of the same word. Arkham, archaic, it's dark, it's broken. And that's what it's really talking about. And it means original, primitive, or ancient. In other words, there is an old you that's original, primitive, and ancient. So just like you think of anything else that's primitive, it's undeveloped, it's broken, it's rough, it's maybe violent, it doesn't have all the thinking capacity, and maybe that's how you felt before. You were in addiction, or you were in anger and bitterness, you were in grief, going through loss, depression, but you didn't feel like you had all of your thinking capacities. You just felt primitive. You felt like you were living in a cave, maybe not a physical one, but just in a virtual cave, like a cave of your own heart and of your own mind. Lost, alone, isolated, broken. Maybe you're hiding in a cave of alcohol, or a cave of sex addiction, or a cave of pornography, or a cave of just loneliness and isolation. Maybe a cave of a bad relationship, but you're in an archaic, primitive place hiding out. And that's the old us. It just was about survival and instinct. It wasn't about doing the right thing or making good decisions. And so it moves us forward, though. It says that that's passed away. And the word here, perikomai, means to pass away, pass out of sight, and be rendered void. Out of sight and void. So when something's out of sight, guess what? It's also out of mind. Out of sight, out of mind. We're not thinking about it. We're not looking at it. That's why sometimes we're walking through and we feel totally fine, having a great day, and we look up and we see somebody that's hurt us in the past, or that reminds us of somebody that we lost, and we look and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm triggered. Why? Because we saw it and now it's back in our mind. But when something's out of sight, doesn't have our focus, doesn't have our view, then it tends to go out of our mind and out of our heart. And what God's saying is, let the old you go out of sight. Quit looking back at your past mistakes. Quit worrying about all the times that you messed up. God knew that. God saved you from that. What can you do to fix it? You know what? There's some things that you will never be able to fix. That's just the truth. I wish I could tell you different, but there's some things that you just are never going to have a chance to put back together and make them the way that they were. You might not be able to put a marriage back together. You might not be able to unabuse someone. Maybe you turn someone on to addiction and now you're free, but they're still in addiction and you can't fix that for them. There's things that you won't be able to change. And you have to be able to look to the Lord and let the past become the past, far enough away that you no longer look at it and that you no longer see it. And so you're trusting it in God's hands. You're not ignoring it. You're trusting it in God's hands. Take this and you do something with it. When I drop my car off at the mechanic, I don't have to follow him into the garage and keep my eyes on it at all times. I turn the car over to the mechanic, and guess what happens to it? It goes out of my sight, and he does the repairs. Give your past to God and let God do the repairs, because it's not stuff that you can change anyways, even with your best effort. But that's the past. And also that it's rendered void means it's obsolete. It's no good. Have you ever bought something and you had a special discount code and you're online, it says put in the code, but you put it in and it says this code is no longer valid? It means it doesn't work anymore. It has no value. It's useless. Have you ever had milk that was void? Expired and void? You pour it out in your cereal and you don't realize it because you're talking to somebody and you look in the other direction, you fill your bowl, and then you go to take a bite and you get a whole mouthful of chunky, nasty, sour milk. Why? Because it's void. It's not usable. So why are you pouring the past back into your life and refilling your mind and your heart with old, expired, soured, and disgusting things? Let it go and move forward into what God has that's new. That's what this verse is challenging us to do, because in God's eyes, it's already a reality. He's already taken care of it. It goes on from there. It says that we are to become, which is genomai, and it means properly to emerge, to become, transitioning from one point or realm of condition to another. In other words, we're moving into a whole new place. We're becoming new. So here's a couple of questions for you to think about. If you were a gang member and you had spent years in gangs, maybe you spent your whole life from the time you were 12 years old to the time you were 32 years old, and now you're 33 and you just recently got out of a gang and you said, for my birthday, I'm getting out. I turned 33 today and I'm out. And you go and join the Marines. At what point do you start calling yourself a Marine? And how long do you say, well, I'm an ex-gang member and I'm trying to become a Marine? The truth is that the day you sign the paper and you walk into that office and say, I'm here to report, you are a Marine. You're not an ex-gang member trying to become a Marine, you are a Marine. And that's how God looks at it, that literally when we come to Him, we are now a child of God. We are changed, transformed, we're new. We're not trying to become a child, we're not trying to become new, we're not trying to have a new life, we are. And it's okay to immediately start calling yourself that and to identify as a new creature that God's made you. Here's one more example. If you're single and you get married, how long are you a single that's trying to get used to being hitched up? How long? How long would your spouse allow you to go around and say that? You go meet people and say, hey, this is my husband. And you're like, well, I'm a single guy. I was a bachelor for 20 years. I'm trying to get used to this being hitched up thing. That's not going to fly. Why? Because you're no longer a single person. The day you tied the vows, guess what? You are now a married person. So why do we do that with our own selves when we try to make a new decision and follow Christ and we're moving forward with our life? Say, well, I'm still an addict in recovery. Well, I'm an alcoholic and I'm trying to change. No, you're no longer an alcoholic. I know that goes against conventional wisdom, but this isn't conventional wisdom. This is biblical wisdom. The old is gone. It's out of sight. It's passed away. All things have been made new. You're now more than a conqueror. You're actually somebody that's a child of God. You're a joint heir with Christ. There's many great things that God has put in your life and called you to, and you no longer have to identify as that past person. You can move forward. And so I challenge you to do that. And for a moment, let's take a sheet of paper and a pen, and let's write out what thoughts and emotions are stirring up in you. That's journaling. Some of you don't like to journal. If you don't like to journal, that's okay. Just call it writing it out. You don't have to call it journaling. But take a piece of paper and write down on there the feelings and the thoughts that are coming up as we have this discussion. And then as soon as you're done with that, break out into small groups and fellowship, whether you're on a Zoom or you're in person, however you're meeting. Break out into small groups and discuss this. Typically we like 4 or 5 people in a group, so there's room and time for everyone to talk. And the sharing and the talking is what will help you also process and grow together. It's not about if you're perfect, it's just about being present. Be present with everyone that's there. Share, be vulnerable, because you're going to get out of this what you put into it. So thank you for being a part of L3. Thank you for being a part of this tonight, and enjoy the time for discussion.